Welcome back to another episode of Getting Personal. I'm here today with Matt, also known as the Flying Gazelle on
Oh,
X CTO at DOVU. It's a great pleasure to have you here today, Matt. How are you doing? How's your day been today?
I'm doing well. I'm slowly recovering from my dreadful sickness, cold, illness last week. I just wanted to be, with everything else going on in my life, I just wanted to be happy and healthy for you, Jack, so we could get this done.
That's the spirit. I'm glad you're feeling better. Before we get into, DOVU, of course, we want to talk about DOVU and maybe a bit of your personal journey as well. Before we do that, I'd love to get your perspective as an Age Parking Union member and part of, a developing team building on the network. What's your sentiment as we sit here today?
There is certainly a lot of passion and excitement and controversy
Uh-huh.
surrounding the aura of Hedera at the moment. That is kind of evident with naturally the whole money market fund for BlackRock last week. That everyone, if you don't know about it, then you're living under a rock. That's basically, frankly, it. You know.
Pretty
um,
much.
yeah, and it is. There are many ways to frame it and talk about it, and understand what has happened. And obviously, on the other side of things, playing devil's advocate, it's very easy to say, well, it wasn't BlackRock that did this thing, it was someone else. And while that's a valid point, they're missing the insight, which is it's not just building product and forcing things to come through the pipe, it's the business development and the relationships behind the scenes that matter. And
Mhm.
that's that's basically what missed with all the excitement last week is um, not only did this thing happen technically, which people were excited about, but the entities that made it happen have a working relationship with BlackRock, and they approved it, and that in itself is more important than the technology itself. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I see. Obviously, last week was fantastic in terms of everyone's defending Hedera or attacking Hedera. It's very polarizing. Um, but I would probably say, in many regards, it's not tribal. It's trying to defend rather than um, say my blockchain is better than or bigger than your blockchain.
Yeah. And it's all marketing, it's all attention, regardless, right?
Yeah,
Whether it's positive, negative, attacking, defending, like it's the eyes were on Hedera, I guess, last week. That's kind of what my takeaway. Whether you're on one side or the other, people are talking about Hedera, and it's a good thing for everyone, building on the network. Talking of building on the network, Dovu. For those
yes.
hearing about Dovu for the first time, how how did it start? What's the vision? Give them a little nutshell of what Dovu is getting ready to revolutionize.
I mean, how far back do you want to go? Because this story is as old as time.
Well, it depends how much time you got.
I mean, I wouldn't want to keep you all night there, Jack. I, I mean, the long and short of it is, Dovu was founded in 2016, and there's always been an interest in Web3 technology. And initially, the first pass to Dovu was focused on incentivizing behavior in the mobility space. And so the example Ervon always used was if he wants to get home quickly to eat his dinner, could he send some Dove tokens to other cars in the highway or the motorway to move out of the way so he could speed past them or something? But more actual, real, concrete examples would be um, manufacturers incentivizing their car owners to behave a particular way and earn Dove tokens and those Dove tokens could be redeemed for specific marketplaces that these manufacturers would run, and then you could get rewarded for kind of good behavior or kind of whatever you wanted to incentivize, basically. And there is, in the modern day, there is a lot of systems that are building that out. But back then, the issue was more DOVU and Web3 and blockchain at the time was considered more of a toy. So like no one took it seriously, and everything was on EVM, everything was in Ethereum, and so the only way to kind of build anything is you would have to basically develop your own side chains. So back in 2018, 2019, we were basically developing Loom L2 style things at DOVU. People would bridge over their tokens, and then within this kind of EVM L2, then you could do all your DOVU incentive specific things. And like one of the coolest things we did was we did this Uber integration, whereby you could hook up your DOVU app to your Uber account, and throughout your journey, it would basically calculate your carbon footprint and then reward you DOVU in real time. Like midway through your journey, at the end of your journey, and then you'll just have like DOVU drop into your wallet in real time. And funnily enough, a month or two after Uber, we never heard from them, but that entire feature from the Uber API basically shut down. So they probably saw what we were doing and didn't like that. I just shut it down. Or I speculate that's what happened. And so, ultimately, the market and the kind of clients we were trying to target weren't biting, and nothing was working. And change had to happen. And so this is probably in the region of 2019. And so this is the whole sustainability side. And ever since 2019, we've just grown. So at first it was very much, it was a lot of experiments for a couple of years where we had interest in, like this interesting functionality where you could subscribe to credits from Gold Standard or Vera, because we would basically sell those credits, and you could subscribe to them monthly using tokens, which is kind of sick, because imagine you would be looking at your wallet and every month your balance would go down and you'd be subscribing to like some like credits. And so that was a thing for a time. But what we realized is many credits from these registries, you have to trust what is actually happening and what they're reporting on. And that lack of traceability we saw as an opportunity. And at first we felt we could go down the ocean market route, take their code base and work with that to create, instead of like data asset, carbon assets using the protocol. But that kind of didn't work. And then that's when we entered into Hedera and went down the whole, I'm going to say something which people would shake their head at, the dynamic NFT route. And this was back in 2020. And so that entire phrasing has been completely morphed into something different. And so I can't even use that phrase anymore. But basically at the time, it was this idea, if you have a token and you attach it to a consensus topic, you can basically continually spit out messages linked to a token. And so you would have proof of something happening over time forever. And then you could track particular addresses who you have highlighted in your system have acted upon something, and that would be the trust chain, as it were. And so that worked for a time. But then Wes Geisenberger came along and was like, I've got the greatest thing since sliced bread, and this was the whole Guardian, the beginning of the Guardian community. I think middle of 2021. And so it's just trying to build with the sustainability community within Hedera. And the long and short of it is where DOVU is now is we are building out the operating system for sustainability. And so that's every part from helping project developers onboard credits. These could be carbon credits, ecological credits, anything you could imagine, all the way to helping them market, all the way to the tokenization, making everything is fully traceable, and selling those things and making sure that this technology is accessible for, imagine farmers in Africa who could use this system to make money from basically capturing carbon in their soil and monetizing their soil and then getting another income stream. Because currently you cannot, I'm going off on one, but the big problem is with current large registries, so we're talking about the Veras and the gold standards of the world, if someone wants to create these credits, the timeline to do that is 12 to 18 months, and it can cost tens of thousands of dollars of resource. And so that ignores probably 90 to 95% of the population who doesn't have those resources to actually capitalize. And so that's what we're trying to solve for. A system for everyone, literally the sustainability operating system that any company can come to us and hook into it and use us as the ground level infrastructure.
So these people can also leverage the Hedera network in similar ways that you guys have been able to do, kind of providing that layer of tools that are more intuitive, a lot easier to use. Like I guess no code, is that the vibe?
No code, workflow creation, integration of AI. Like one of the things that is one of the things. I mean, the AI piece is kind of insane.
That's massive.
You actually have no idea. Like no one has no idea how good our AI tools are. So we've been developing this AI onboarding platform for a year, and it's coming out like next week, right? Whoa, alpha. I don't know. It might even be out now. I don't know. But it's going to be out. Actually, I would lie. It might be out tomorrow. Who knows? But anyway, what's so cool about it is not only is it a central hub for you to collect all of the information about your project in a single place that's completely self-serve, but it does not expect you to learn anything about carbon credits, anything about ecological credits. And so you come in, you fill out a few forms, you could answer a bunch of questions with a couple of sentences, and then it will generate you rich documents that are thousands of words long that can be given to registries, to validators, to verifiers. And at the end of it, you would have a dashboard with 3 augmented AI documents that cover risk, your methodology, and your project overview, all your pictures, and other like kind of documentation that you want to add to it. And that just doesn't exist right now. And that is coming out like imminently.
Is that a custom AI or is it linked to something like ChatGPT?
It's OpenAI, but we basically, I could go technical, but we've done quite a lot.
Try and keep it as simple as possible. Not just for me, but those tuning in.
All right. So with OpenAI, like you only can like feed it so much information. And so we've basically figured out a way where you can feed it an infinite amount of information that involves everything about the project itself. And you could do that as much as you want. And so it would learn not only that it's taken the persona of being an agent that is focused on being a carbon offsetting expert, but it will learn everything about your project, and it will write out these rich documents for you. And so you basically have this assistant next to you for free, this agent that will help you every step of the way. to generate everything you need that kind of covers your documents to kind of send to verifiers, validators, registries to get your journey started. In other words, we're closing the first mile for digitizing carbon, ecological, and any other sustainability or impact activity credit.
Yeah, I mean, tools on the one hand and knowledge, like you say, with the AI generating that documentation, that just removes basically all of the barriers, right? For someone to leverage carbon credits or,
To
just
get
leverage it.
started at this point,
Yeah.
there is so much work we're doing. I could talk about this for so long, honestly. There is so much work we're doing, and over the next 6 months, we're basically rewriting our entire foundational infrastructure. Why is that exciting? So we're taking identity very, very seriously. Very, 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 very seriously. Lots of varies. So within Web3, there's this concept of decentralized identity. I don't know if you're familiar, Jack.
Yeah.
So So before I continue, when I say decentralized identity, what does that kind of mean to you in simple terms, so we can bounce off each other?
So for me, it would mean, in simple terms, it would be the digitization of my identity, but rather than being centralized within a system, let's say of the government, it would be on chain or on a DLT. So it's, I guess, I don't know. In simple terms, that's kind of what I imagine it to be.
Okay. So when we think about identity, when it's like Google, obviously your identity is within Google, and you can use the Google login to get everywhere, right? We know this. But the thing about decentralized identity is it takes a while to get your head around it. But effectively, you have your identity in this specific place where it's reachable, and you're able to add attributes to it, assertions to it. And in its purest form, that identity should be able to be used everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And something that is missing right now in the sustainability ecosystem, basically anywhere in Web3, is this decentralized identity system where any supplier, any verifier, any registry can have a singular identity. And not only that, a registry could say to a supplier, I have vouched for you to be a supplier. And you actually have that on your record.
Okay.
And once you have that system in place, something very cool happens, because this means that any sustainability ecosystem, let's say a Guardian ecosystem, or others that are coming up, can leverage the same identity. And you would be able to know if someone with a particular address or an account maps, and whether they have the role that you're looking for. If a verifier verifies a project on one Guardian system and another Guardian system, and something has gone wrong, then you would be able to trace that identity back along the chain to everything they've affected. And so that's one of the things we're taking very seriously over the next 6 months, is we need an identity system in sustainability in Hedera that works flawlessly. And it's like, it would be as simple as using a Google one-click authentication, but then you can manage and understand what attributes you've been given from other people.
Yeah.
And just our goal is to simplify basically everything when it comes to sustainability.
Mm-hmm. There's that my takeaway there was the traceability element and the interconnectivity element.
Yeah.
Like those two things, kind of like what we have now, taking that to like a whole nother level.
Yeah,
on
exactly.
a global scale, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exciting.
And so yeah, there's lots going on. But anyway, you should answer more questions. I've just chatted for like 20 minutes straight.
I wanted to ask you, I wanted to go back to when you said that moment in time where you entered Hedera or chose to come to Hedera and build on Hedera, that moment in time, because I'm sure there's, especially with, I feel like Hedera is getting more and more awareness. What were the points or the boxes that Hedera checked for you as a project or builders to say, let's go for Hedera?
So this story goes a bit deeper. I was evaluating the Hedera technology before Hedera was Hedera.
All right.
So this was back in late 20, I think probably early 2018, probably 2017. You had the Swelds hash graph kit. And so I was basically evaluating that. And so I had it running and just like sending it consensus messages and like playing with it. And I was like, this is great. So that's probably before Hedera was really a thing. I think probably maybe at a time, Hedera, if it existed, was probably like a $20 million market cap token, something madness like that. And so I always had it in the back of my mind since that period, because I was in 2018, I was a senior developer for this agency who were like this blockchain consultancy called Simple Web Block. And we basically, it was like an R&D company, and we spent basically a year just trying to make stuff work. Turned out we made nothing work, and we became bankrupt and lost our jobs. But that was a fun year regardless. And one of the technologies I did evaluate was Hedera, and I kept that with me. And then when Hedera became a bit more mature, I obviously was working with DOVU, and then COVID hit, and I was trying out these different projects. And the second project I completed in my spare time was the Trust Enterprises consensus SDK at the time. And the reason why it excited me is at the time, I didn't think Hedera needed to be a full network with tokens, with contracts, with the whole 9 yards. I just saw Hedera basically as a layer 0 over ledger effectively, because if you had consensus messages and you had fair ordering and it was cheap, you could build whatever you wanted, and it would basically solve the L2 problem by default. And so at that point in time, we were going to basically create our own token engine on top of Hedera using the consensus service. And then soon thereafter, the token service was basically created. But yeah, it was when we approached it at DOVU, we were like, you know what, let's just run with this and see what happens. And we just kept on pushing forward with it, and this is the result 4 years later.
Looking good.
Yeah, I mean, the token thing was interesting because so many people don't know this, but I created the first DEX on Hedera.
You've had your hands in a few different buckets, haven't you?
So it was basically the best way to describe it is H suite without the multisig.
Okay.
And during the 2021 hackathon, I created this project called Unibar, where I obviously had your token issuance engine. There was no hashpack. There was no wallets back then. And so it was like, let's try to handle the entire gamut of what you require. So you would log in to the system using your MetaMask. Like literally, you would sign it. You would sign a message with MetaMask to log in. And when you did that, you could issue tokens, and you could create liquidity pools based off of accounts, balance them over, and then people could come in and literally trade tokens with you. It was wild.
Wow.
And so that was a hectic 4 weeks to build that.
What was this kind of like project with a start and an end? Or was there the idea of maybe this goes a long way?
I built the MVP. and got it delivered for the hackathon. I got some money from some rewards from Galaxy for doing it, which was amazing. And while I tried to get some grant funding from Hedera, it never came to fruition. And so I just basically, because basically straight after the hackathon, I had an interview with BCW. I was offered an interview to work for Galaxy. I was offered the proper CTO role at DOVU. Or I could have gone down this Unibar route. And I decided to stick with DOVU. Who knows what would have happened if...
Here's the big... Oh, so you were already at DOVU at that time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because the question was, why did you pick DOVU? Is your background in sustainability as well?
No.
Like before the whole Hedera, DOVU period?
No, like we all began sustainability together. So I guess all in all, we've probably been in the sustainability space for 5 years. And so we've all learned together. But I think with DOVU, what I've felt and what I do feel is that what we're building is so novel. It's a problem that needs solving, and it's not easily duplicatable. And why that is interesting is in the world of blockchain and Web3, it's so easy to grab a smart contract from Aave, from Uniswap, from any protocol that exists and fork it and then post it on another EVM chain and then rebrand it. And so I've never felt that by doing that, that's meaningful. And so I would rather solve a problem that I can dedicate the best years of my career to, and kind of roll with that, basically.
Makes sense. And amongst all these the problem solving and all these side projects, I love that you have all these projects in your spare time as well.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
I used to no time for that, huh? No time for games anymore.
Well,
a little bit. I'm sure there's a little bit here and there.
A little bit.
What about? I'm sure you've had many challenges, not just yourself, but the team as well. Like that you've come up against. What would you say has been your biggest challenge in Web3 on your journey to tackle with?
Any direction you want me to take this?
No, I mean, I'd say let's say on a personal level, like for you personally, I don't know, you could maybe touch on your background and how you entered Web3, but like then when you're in Web3, like on a personal level, something that you found difficult to deal with, that you found really challenging. I
think
it's a different world, right?
It is. You know, one of the hardest things I think is that if you're in a company that has a token, there's a degree of stewardship around that token that you need to appreciate and be responsible for. And with the best intentions, no one has control over the market. And as a team, you need to be prepared for that. And no one is. And so what happens is you get, threats of violence, death threats, you get all these things happen. And like, while on one hand, you have this token and it could be the best thing in the world, you need to really understand that there's going to be up days and down days, and no one should get a token unless they really need it, because you are going to have rampant individuals who are unable to control themselves when it comes to, I sell it as basically gambling, right? And who won't be able to pay rent, right? Who get frustrated at themselves in the project, and their life can get destroyed because something happens. And that emotional weight is not to be trifled with. And you have to be aware of it basically every day.
Yeah. There's definitely a before and after when launching a token in that regard.
Yeah, because obviously you see it with Hashback. Depending on how well you think they did their launch, that's one thing. But Hashback will get to a point with their token in the bear market where it dips potentially 90-95%, and people have bought at the top and they're freaking out, and it takes a strong team to basically stick together and weather that storm. Everyone is having parties, everyone is enjoying themselves during the bull run, but there's going to be high times and low times, and you need to be prepared for those low times.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't really matter. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry for butting in.
All right.
I was just basically going to say, and this is one of the interesting things about the Hedera community, is that everyone is a whole lot more mature compared to Ethereum, or, well, I mean, like kind of the common degeneracy on Ethereum, is that it's so easy for that crowd of people, the BSEs of the world, or the Solanas probably, where they would attract more people who are in it for making money quick. But at Hedera, for the most part, people are more responsible and understand the risks they are taking. And in many regards, it's nicer to be in that environment.
Yeah.
And you really have
also,
to, yeah.
No, I said that I also get the sense that people are buying the tokens also because they need a vision
Yeah,
behind
exactly.
the project building on Hedera, which,
Yeah,
that's what you really want. Right?
absolutely. And like none of us have control over what's going to happen, but the goal is to cultivate communities that care about what you're doing,
Yeah,
or try to at least.
for sure. And I agree where community drives everything, and there's never been that level of intimacy between, a startup or a project or a team and the community, right? It's so public, it's so intimate. And that
Yeah,
that that can also be very challenging, like just in and of itself, right? That new dynamic that we're kind of navigating, doing in public with the constant expectations to deliver.
yeah. I guess my question to you, because you're about to release a token, right? How do
Which
you
one?
feel?
Yeah,
Um, Kabila,
yeah,
you're about to release a token. Obviously, you've done your sweet candy tooth one, which
yeah.
is a bit of fun. But
Bit
Kabila
different.
is yeah, a little bit. With Justin, one of my
Warm.
devs from DOVU, amazing. But with Kabila, you're about to release a token, and so how do you feel about like kind of the future? Because there will be ups and there will be downs.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned candy. That's definitely been for me personally a massive learning experience, and definitely got to get my feet wet.
Yeah,
Obviously Manu, the CEO of Kabila, he's been working on the token for the last year plus, and he's really in those final stages of tokenomics, lawyers, regulation, all the fun stuff that you're probably aware of. And he's very aware that it's a before and after, and doing everything in his hands to make sure it goes right, even though you're not in full control, like you say. You can have the best intentions in the world and plan everything out, but then the market is the market. The community is the community. You can do your best to nurture that community. I feel like we do have a really strong community that believes in the vision behind Kabila. But then, the proof is in the pudding, right? So I think we're optimistic, but also cautious and really taking our time. One step at a time. There's really no rush at all when it comes to that. So yeah, we'll see when the time comes. We're very excited.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I obviously wish you all the best on your token, and hopefully, the community you fostered has,
Yeah.
grow with you, and likewise,
Yeah, hopefully we can ride those lows and highs together.
Yes, definitely.
Like you say, excitement and what's to come. 2024, or even looking further into the future. What excites you? I know you mentioned you've got the AI coming next week, I believe you said. What else?
Might be tomorrow. Who knows? Or Thursday.
Well, by the time this goes out, it will definitely be live. So
when is this going out?
a couple of weeks.
Tomorrow. Okay, I'm definitely out. This is old news right now, guys. This is old news. We've already seen it. The alpha that I'm dropping now is beta at this point. I think looking into the future with DOVU, I'm excited about where we will be in 2 to 3 years. And what I want to do is look at that kind of moon, like the kind of the finishing line, and kind of step back from there. And so I envision DOVU to have a range of, almost like how Hedera has its native services. DOVU will have native services that you use the DOVU token to consume, like HBAR.
Yeah.
And so we'll have our onboarding service, we'll have our workflow policy creation service that allows you to map the process for the creation of any asset, any real world asset, basically, if you want to, or any kind of supply chain, who knows? It's actually powerful what we're building. The market, of course, and potentially the charger protocol as a separate service, which is the ability for anyone to connect their Web2 API to a token, and for those payments to happen in real time, just like how HBAR works. So we kind of figured that out. And so if you have these 4 services and then we host them ourselves that people can pay for, building economies around these services for real world projects that impact thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that end up issuing millions of tons of credits, millions of units of credits. That's where I see us being. And obviously that's bullish.
Very.
Yes. And so my job at DOVU is to basically chip away at that with my team and make that come to reality.
It's just a matter of time. Like I said, it's chipping away, the ups, the downs. It's really Web3. It feels like there's this impatience built into Web3, right? And you can sometimes get sucked into that and get impatient yourself. Do you find that?
Absolutely. But for every quarter or every 6 months, we're going to have product releases that make up the operating system, like onboarding that's out now. And we're going to be testing out the charger protocol to people as the months go on. And when and it's not so much about, so this is the interesting thing about what we're doing versus what, if you think about forking a smart contract or creating a tokenization engine, not to upset you or anything, but it's very easy it's more trivial to create a tokenization engine and say, my clients are people in Web3 that want to create tokens, and people will pay for that. I mean, that's basically relatively simple. Obviously, for Kabila or for HBAR, because HBAR targets more developers, you target more people coming on in a no-code way to issue their stuff, right? But the kind of stuff we're doing requires a degree of product research and cycles because nobody has really built this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you probably understand what it's like over at Kabila because you're trying to build products that serve people and continually iterate. And then once you have that locked in, then you're able to charge for it, you know?
Yeah, and I think what you said about releasing parts
Yeah.
of this ecosystem that you talk about over time, like the pieces come out, and that Kabila is very much, you know,
Yeah.
coming about in that fashion. Like we don't have the full ecosystem built out yet. There's still dApps, there's still
Yeah.
features, and it's really, like you say, 2 to 3 years. We'll probably be in a position where we're like, okay, we've got the all-in-one solution that we've been talking about all this time is actually here.
Yes. Yes,
You know?
exactly.
So yeah, I can definitely
Um,
relate in that regard.
but yeah, that's it really. It's chipping away, but being cognizant that you can't live in a silo. You have to continually push the envelope forward, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything we haven't touched on today, Matt, that you'd like to touch on?
There's many things, but
That
happy
was
to
a
close it
dangerous
there.
question, wasn't it?
Yeah. We're already like 15 minutes over.
Oh, well, we're good. We're good. Like, no, if there's any
Yeah.
like final thoughts, words that you'd like to share with the community before we wrap it up.
I I think everyone who's watching this, for the most part, are going to be diehard Hedera fans. And my advice would be just enjoy the next 12 to 18 months. You know, just soak it in. You know, and keep an eye on Bonzo Finance, keep an eye on PixFi, obviously keep an eye on the great work Jack is doing at Kabila, and obviously everything with Pack, because there's got to be a point of critical mass where everything goes nuts.
Yeah.
And, you know, just enjoy it.
Enjoy these quieter days.
Yeah.
I always look back. I mean, we're not quite into that boom yet. We had kind of that teaser
Yeah.
that we've kind of been through, but like last
Yep.
year, it was so quiet. I was kind of enjoying it. Like now looking back, as it starts to get a bit noisier, I'm like, you know what? I miss those bearish days where you just had more time to, you know, deepen connections, just focus more, you know. So it's like you say, that time is going to come where this just goes nuts. So
Yeah.
enjoy the quiet time for when it lasts.
Yeah. And, you know, and anyone else wants to check out what I'm doing, you can join our Discord at DOVU.earth. We have a really cool staking platform that everyone raves about if you want to participate. Was it auto compounding? Um, so yeah, it's not a staking platform; it's this incentivization engine thing
Mm-hmm.
where we can connect to any project. But yeah, we should do something with you, Jack, at some point. We can connect to any project, and people get specific bonuses based off NFTs they hold. And there's no smart contracts, there's no lock in. Everything is completely liquid, and it's quite an impressive little beast. So if you folks out there in the ecosystem want to play with a staking platform that you've never seen before and you don't know about DOVU, then I urge you to log in, get a marketplace account, and have a little tinker because that's quite a little bit of magic there.
There you have it. There you have it, guys. Thanks for taking the time today, Matt. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've enjoyed chatting with you, getting to learn a little bit more about this grand vision. I do
Yes.
amazing work.
Well, thank you for having me, Jack. It's been a pleasure, and we could talk for hours more.